a step, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Only just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Welcome to the HVAC Guide for Homeowners YouTube channel live show where we go talk about all things HVAC that no one else is talking about, answering your questions live. Sometimes we are joined by other pros in the chat who might know answers to questions that I don't. That's not that hard. I'm just going to be honest with you. And finally, we have breakout segments where we go over funny clips, industry news, and goofy inventions. And not only that, tonight we have a special guest. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. I'll just be honest with you guys. When I started making YouTube videos and this live show, my biggest goal was to give folks access to see and be a part of things they can get nowhere else. And tonight is another great example of that. But before we bring on Howard, let's take a moment to pay the bills and thank the sponsor of this show. I wanted to take a quick break from the video and thank the sponsor of this video, AeroSeal. Leaky ductwork is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, energy wasters in most homes in the United States. And my favorite way of fixing that problem is AeroSeal. They'll come into your home, they'll test your ductwork and how leaky it is. They'll seal all the ductwork with a machine, and then they'll test it again and make sure that you got what you paid for. Customers have reported a significant savings on their energy bills after using AeroSeal. I'll put a link down in the description of this video. Thanks again to AeroSeal, and now let's get back to the video. Tonight's guest is an expert in the HVAC field. He's host of one of my favorite YouTube channels, the HVAC Dope Show. He has over a decade of experience, including owning a very successful business called The Bee, located in two major metropolitan cities, Denver, Colorado, and Phoenix, Arizona. And finally, he's the proud father of an English bulldog named Olive and about to be the proud father of a little bundle of joy on the way. Everyone, please welcome Howard Bynder.
Right
What's
on.
up, Howard? How are you?
I'm doing good. That's quite the audience.
They've been lined up outside the studio all
That's
day.
awesome.
You know, they keep lining up for you guys. It's you deserve it. You deserve it.
Right on. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm a big fan as well. So
Nice. Let's go ahead. We've got a few folks that are on here with us. Deshaun, welcome to the show. Hello to Gary as always. And yeah, I'm excited to have Howard on the show. A lot of guys, I don't know if anybody here has seen Howard's stuff, but if you haven't, go subscribe. I think I've told you this. It's almost like you are, and whether you did this intentional or not, you almost have the same goal in mind that I have had with my channel. You're kind of informing people things that maybe they're not getting elsewhere. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, when we first started chatting, I mean, one of the things you mentioned to me is there's not a lot of other channels out there that are putting out content that's really geared towards the consumer. A lot of it's geared towards technicians and like how-to videos, which is great. And that's all important. But there's a lot of questions, that customers have. And it's funny because when I originally started the channel, it was kind of intentional in that respect, in terms of like, I wanted to put out content that was more geared towards homeowners. And I didn't really know how to go about doing it. If you look at some of our older videos, some of it was kind of like vlog content. I was just kind of trying to figure out what people wanted to watch and what was done. And then I started to realize people were in need of kind of like very informational, like, hey, tell me about this type of system, or what should I know about this, or, just caveats to look out for. And so we kind of switched gears and started doing that. And it's been fun. It's been fun to watch it grow. And yeah, I really enjoy it. And I also created it kind of as a way so that I wanted to kind of duplicate myself, where I could have a tool that how my guys could explain things to customers kind of the same way. And so oftentimes when they're in their house, they're, saying, oh, by the way, check out this video. This is a video on this system that we're talking about. And it's been super helpful. And, it's been fun to watch it grow. So
it's funny you said that. That's originally what I used my YouTube channel for. My first, 100 videos or so were me, talking about a product, and then I would attach it to our website, or I would send it, I would literally have it to where the guys could pull up a video of the, an ionizer or whatever the product was. And so Ryan wants to know, what's the story behind your business or your channel name, and also how you split your time between your two locations.
Yeah, so it's funny. I kind of have to give a shout out to our first videographer, Dylan, for the channel name, because I came up with the name, but I didn't really think, I thought it was kind of a ridiculous name at first, but I was like, hey, I was thinking about the Dope HVAC Show, but I was like, it doesn't flow as well. We should do like the HVAC Dope Show or something. He's like, yeah, I like it. And then he just ran with it. And because he ran with it, I was like, all right, I guess we're the HVAC Dope Show now. And so that's how we ended up with that name. So kind of random. And to answer the question, how I split my time between business locations, the big thing is like, in terms of how I built the company, we're all about like systems and processes. We're still technically a pretty small company. we only have like, 13 people, in Denver, and we're building out our market in Phoenix. And I've sent one of my senior guys that's been with me for several years out to Phoenix. He volunteered to kind of help me open up that market. And so like I was just out in Phoenix last week and the week before that. So it's kind of on an as needed basis, but I focus a lot on like, the things I need to be there for like hiring, or, getting people integrated into the culture and telling them, about the vision, the expectations, upward mobility, employee maturity model, things like that. And just getting people kind of locked in. And then as far as like me physically having to be there, I don't necessarily have to be there, but right now I'm definitely very hands-on, because I don't have a lot of, I don't have like a manager out there quite yet. Right. And so I just have kind of some, a senior tech that's helping me get things launched. And then my in-laws live in Scottsdale, so it's kind of a good excuse for us to travel out there. And I like my in-laws. I think I should mention that, because some people might be like, in-laws, I would open up another state maybe, but but no, I like my in-laws. They're cool. So we stay with them out there, and it kind of, it's almost like a work-life integration. But it is definitely something, to juggle, but it's been, I forget what the quote is, but it's basically like necessity, is the mother of innovation, or something like that. I know I'm misquoting it, but it's basically like, once you have to do something, you'll kind of figure it out. Like, and you'll kind of figure out, oh, I need to do this because, this is how going to make me efficient. And so that's kind of how we started.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like, because you live in Denver, is that right? So you live in Denver, and then your wife's family is in Arizona.
Mhm.
And got it. Okay. Interesting. Because
Yeah.
I was like, you would think if he was going to open another location, at least it'd be in somewhere else in Colorado, kind of thing. So
Yeah. And we have done that. Like, we've opened up Colorado Springs. And so it's just a much smaller metro. So it's been kind of slower opening up down there, but we do run calls in Colorado Springs, and Denver, we go up to Boulder, we go pretty far inland. We haven't really jumped into the mountains yet, although there is a big demand, but but yeah, we wanted to get into Phoenix to kind of diversify into some hot weather. That's like on a different time frame. So that's why we started there. Cause right now it's actually already starting getting busy, right on Howdy from AZ to Arch. That's cool.
Hey, Arch, where at in Arizona are you? Are you near Phoenix? You know, if you are, you need to be calling the B, man. Call the B.
Yeah, we come
Let's,
out for free for first time customers. So for a tune up or service call. So
um, oh, this is actually a really good question. So you have two separate areas. Are you selling the same brand, and does that fluctuate based on, I don't know, your supplier, based on which area?
yeah, so that's a great question. It actually kind of has a little bit recently. So and I'm actually going to have some videos coming out in the next few weeks about it. But we're actually starting to sell Bosch, and part of it is because Bosch actually is one of the only products on the market right now that makes an inverter-driven heat pump package unit. And there's actually a lot of package units in residential applications in Phoenix. And so and it's an 18 SEER, so it qualifies for the heat pump tax credit. So it's kind of a unique product. And we actually installed our first one about a month ago and installed another one that I was actually out for last week. And it's a very cool product, but it's an inverter driven heat pump. And so, that's kind of why we offered that. And as far as our good, better, best options, do they change between Denver and Phoenix? Short answer is yes, just because what in Phoenix, you don't have to worry about cold climate heat pumps, right? The only reason you're looking at that is maybe to qualify for some of the heat pump tax credits. And so you're still paying attention to the AHRI matchups and the EER and the SEER ratings and all that stuff. But so we are, in Denver, we definitely have to pay closer attention to that. And we actually started offering Bosch in Colorado because some of their product lines actually meet the EER requirements in order to qualify for the cold climate heat pumps. And there's some smoke and rebates in Denver and through Excel right now that we've been getting asked about. And so we would like to, offer those products. So, but yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Bosch is they've really got a unique and I know there's a few other ones out there too, but I feel like Bosch, if they weren't the first, they were definitely one of the first, and definitely the first in my market, an inverter that was non-communicating. And
Mhm.
that's got its challenges, especially in my area when it comes to, the latent capabilities and such, removing that humidity. But I bet you probably don't even have to think about that in Arizona. You just stick her in there and make it blow cold, I would guess.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, we'll find out. It is technically going to be my first season in Arizona. We're hiring some seasoned people that have, more experience in the market, and I've kind of gotten some feedback on it. They do have a monsoon season there where I guess they get higher humidity, but it's nothing like East Coast or where you're hitting 80, 90, 100% humidity. But yeah, it still gets, we still get some humidity during the monsoon season. So
94M says, I don't know if that is I think they're saying fluke. I think our
yeah,
fluke's
I'm
really
assuming
worth it.
fluke
Um,
meaning the meter, I'm assuming.
I'm just assuming as well. I'm a fluke man. I don't know about you. Are you a
Yeah,
field piece guy, or are
100%.
you a fluke man? Are you?
No,
Okay.
I give my people, so like anytime I have a technician, I always tell them like buy fluke, buy fluke. Don't get the field piece stuff. It's junk, blah, blah, blah. And then they show up with, the guys talk them into it. And like some of the other guys in the field are like, oh, my field piece gauges are so great. I'm like, bro, what did you do? No, get this. But yeah, no, my favorite's the Fluke 116 is kind of like our go-to meter because it has everything you need, but it's bulletproof. I lost my first one before it had a chance to break. I had it for 5 years, and then I don't know where it went. And then I
Yeah,
bought a second one.
mine's probably that old, if not older. I don't know which
Yeah.
model it is, but I mean, it's been going strong for a while. And I always hear people talk about, I mean, I just throw the thing in the bag. It sits out in the truck. It gets cold in the winter, and I don't ever worry. I mean, it's always been old trusty for me. So
Yeah.
I'm a Fluke fan myself, and it is worth the money for me because I had
Yeah.
owned a couple cheap meters, and I finally bit the bullet, and I don't think I've had to buy another meter since. It's like a good pair of work boots. Once you buy a good pair, you don't even mess with the cheap stuff anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, I would say short answer is Fluke is definitely worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, Arch, Ryan was pointing out that they now Gree makes an inverter package unit. I kind of peeked at it. The ratings didn't look that high on it, but maybe it's got some other things going for it. Maybe it's budget friendly. I don't know. But good to know, because I didn't know that until Ryan pointed that out before our show started. So
Right on.
anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to check that out. I'm curious, what the ratings are, because that was part of what motivated us. Is we were getting asked about it a little bit, but also the fact that, like I said, that inverter package unit that Bosch makes qualifies for that cold climate heat pump, and so for us, it was a no-brainer to look at it. But
yeah, it looks like it's got a really good heating range, but lower than 18 SEER too, which I'm not sure. Maybe that's not as bad as I thought. I guess that's right in line with probably what the Bosch is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. The decibel rating's a little bit higher. It says it's 65, but it's still not bad. And it looks like it qualifies for the rebate, is what they're advertising right there for the heat pump tax credit. I'm assuming what that $2,000 is. So.
Yep. I bet you're right. Yep. Federal tax credit.
Right on. Huh. I'll have to check it out.
I think the Inflation Reduction Act really changed, like, for example, I know the Daikin Fit came out, and then the Inflation Reduction Act came out, and then Daikin went back to the drawing board, right? And I don't think Daikin was the only one. I think they've really, shaped where a lot of the manufacturers have gone. I mean, if you can get an easy $2,000 rebate on a product, well, that's going to probably play a role in the decision you're about to make, So
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
have you had customers? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, then I was going to say that's what we started looking at with a lot of this. One of the things we're up against in Phoenix, in Denver, is that so for in Excel's territory, in order to qualify for their heat pump rebate, you have to have an EER rating. I think that's 11.7. And as you know, the inverter board eats up a lot of just I don't know why they can't get the EER ratings higher on a lot of these, but Bosch basically on their 18 SEER and their 20 SEER system, it is just above that on the EER. And so it's one of the few systems that actually qualifies out here for some of the more, because it hits the SEER rating requirements, the EER, and as well as the HSPF, or the HSPF 2 now. And so I was that's one of the reasons we started looking at that.
Ryan said he's used the tax credits for a water heater, so they are real. Yep,
right,
that's
on.
Great.
And
they are real, people.
And I was curious, Ryan, you just I'm assuming you filed that on your taxes, right? It's not, because several people have asked if it's an instant rebate, and I said no. It's when you file at tax time, you get it as a tax credit. That's my understanding of it. Is that because I haven't filed my taxes yet for this year, because I guess there's our CPA is waiting on something. He said there's a bill in Congress that could affect us, so we just need to wait a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, they might extend bonus depreciation, which basically gives you 100% write-off on vans. And we did buy another van last year, and so it's actually our first electric van. So we get to bonus that.
Do you like it?
I love it. Yeah. The only downside, it's going to be great. Whichever installer gets it is going to love it, but the range is not cut out for service. We were wondering if we could make it work for service, but it's good for about it's only got a 130-mile range, because it's basically a giant brick on wheels. But I love the convenience of you plug in at night, you wake up with a full tank of gas. But at that range, you're waking up with a half tank of gas basically. And so it's good for an installer, because you can show up, do your job, and then have plenty of range to drive around, but because you're not driving around all day. But
I have this and so one of the segments that we have on my show when it's just me is it's called the Goofy Invention segment. And I have this goofy invention in my head of, instead of plugging all these electric vehicles in, I have thought that it might be better if, like we do a tank swap, if you do a recovery tank,
Yeah.
instead you pull up to a fuel station, you pull out the battery, you swap, you just do a battery swap, right? And so
Yeah.
like these vehicles that do have smaller ranges of brick on wheels could just pull into
Totally.
the local, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be if they could figure it out, I think it would be, worth it, for sure.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because they actually have that for. So I follow aviation a lot. I told you that's like one of my biggest, like that's my side passions. And one of the first electric aircraft, it was just certified in Europe. It's only got an hour of flight time, so it's really meant for the training market. But it's very quiet. It meets it's like very cheap to operate too by comparison. Like anyone who knows anything about aviation knows, like they're just expensive to operate. But this little electric trainer, it's got these 2 batteries that basically go where the engine or the motor would go. And so, when they're charging, you can do that. The batteries are like, I think 60 or 70 pounds, but you can pull them out in between lessons and then slide new ones in. But I think it's just because it's like a little tiny, 800-pound plane. It's not like a giant plane. And so it might be a little harder because apparently the whole floor of the van is like where the batteries are at. So I think it's a pretty big, it might be kind of hard to change them out, but I do think that's a better idea because it would be quicker. That's for sure. So
Yeah. Yep. 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 So, what is something most folks that have been watching you on YouTube, what's something they don't know about you?
something they don't know about me. I mean, I don't know. I maybe just shared a little bit about it that, one of my side passions is aviation because I don't really talk about planes on the channel and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess one thing, I feel like nowadays people don't, everything's so, I don't know if I'm not going to get political, but I was going to divulge kind of a little bit of like my passion behind like heat pumps and newer technology and stuff. It's not necessarily grounded in like something where I feel like it's a moral thing. It's more, I'm just like very practical. And so I actually think the technology is just super neat. And so, I don't, like I said, I try not to get, into every once in a while I'll throw in like a little side comment when I'm making a video, but for the most part, I try not to get like, political or go down rabbit holes. It's not a political channel or anything. It's just about, I'm talking about HVAC and heat pump technology and green technology and solar panels. But anytime I read the comments when I'm talking about solar panels and heat pumps, there's always people that are going in and, getting kind of heated about like, one group thinks it's going to save the planet. One group thinks it's going to destroy the grid and we need to drill more. And I'm just like, listen, man, I'm just trying to give you options because my whole thesis behind, that is really like you can become independent. So it's like electricity goes up, gases go down, whatever, at least your costs are kind of fixed because you're just like energy independent for heating and cooling, which is the largest contributor to what makes up your bill, right? And like that's our biggest energy dependence as a homeowner. Like that's where all the electrical or natural gas consumption goes to. So I mean that might be something that people don't know about me, is that I'm actually just really looking for like the most practical, pragmatic solution. That's just kind of my approach to it. I don't really have an axe to grind one way or the other. I'm like relatively neutral. I'm just like live and let live, get the best system for your home and your situation. And, I'm not like trying to like push a certain narrative or whatever. And I have no problems being wrong. So if people ever correct me in the comments or anything, I'm always open to that. I learn stuff from, the subscribers all the time. And that's actually how we found out about the Mitsubishi IntelliHeat. Was one of our subs was talking about that. And I thought it was really cool or a really cool product to offer. And that's why we started offering it. So.
Yeah. Well, that's awfully political of you to say all of that. So
I know. Was it really? Was that pretty?
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
I tell you, a lot of folks know that join us. I sold my company not long ago,
Mhm.
and now I'm teaching other pros different things, and in these classes. And so I'm teaching this class on A2L refrigerants. And some of these guys, man, they bring their pitchforks to the class because they're ready to fight somebody, and I'm like, I'm just giving the info here. I don't, they're ready to just take somebody to bat on this stuff. So,
Well,
uh,
yeah, I haven't taken the class yet. We're going to be doing it like in a couple weeks. But question for you, since you're teaching the class, correct? Is it true that you're only allowed to carry one cylinder of an A2L refrigerant, basically on a truck, without a
so
commercial like a CDL that with like a hazmat sort of?
So I just got a book from the ESCO Institute that I plan to dive into that I'm
Okay.
hoping it covers that more specific. But I will tell you, so my class, I took like 30 classes before I put mine together, right? And I even pulled from some of those classes. So my class is sort of a a you know a hybrid of the ESCO Institute's class, the Comores class, and Daikin's stuff. And so I put it all kind of into one, as informative as I can be without putting them to sleep class.
Yeah.
And one of the parts of the class, we talk about these stipulations of when you're storing the refrigerants, and it can't be within 10 or 20 feet of whether it's other A2L refrigerants, whether it's A3, all these different stipulations. But then you get to the video that they put out on the transport of the refrigerants and storing them in your work van, and it's very vague. It doesn't say, it just says it can't be with it. I think the verbiage it uses is it can't be close to any ignitable materials, or and I'm like, so I can't keep paper towels on my truck anymore? I mean, what are we talking about? So it's a little interesting, but the thing I keep pointing out in my classes is, number one, if the Europeans and Asians have been using it for so long, I think we'll be okay. We're going to figure it out, right? And the other thing is, a lot of the guys are concerned about how hot their vans get, and the class specifically says when you store the refrigerant, it should not get above 125 degrees. And so, they've now got these relief valves on them, and what does that mean? If it gets to 126 degrees, is that relief valve going to let loose? I mean, and so anyway, what I point out in the class is, I think they're going to probably deal with this sooner than we will down in Texas, where, I've got a friend that makes videos on YouTube, and he's down in the valley of Texas, and it's easy for them to see 120-degree days ambient. And so, I think we're all about to find out a few things.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Well, because vans in Phoenix, I guarantee they hit 160 like plus, because it gets hot. And then if your van's sitting in the sun, so yeah, I am really curious about that, because we were talking about that, and I was thinking, I mean, it's one thing if I just have a jug of R32, but then if I'm adding like 454B is one of the A2Ls, right? The other ones, 454B.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, if I'm not supposed to have two, more than 25 pounds or whatever it is, or 26 pounds, then I can only have like one cylinder of each. And it seems like it could get, in the middle of summer, could turn into kind of hectic. But, and I don't know what the charge amounts are yet. So, I mean, we'll have a lot of content to put out. That's for sure. Like the next year, as some of this stuff comes out. But yeah, I am interested to see like how it all pans out. It's going to be exciting.
I'm just giving Deshaun a big old heart right here. He says he's definitely a fan of both of us. So
right
that's
on.
good
Thank
stuff.
you.
Let's see. Shinobi1 says, what do you see as the financial break-even point for most solar installs? I never did solar. How about you?
Yeah, we don't do it yet. Technically, on our license in Phoenix, you can do solar, and it's something we've wanted to kind of dive into. Phoenix is like a mecca for solar. So is Colorado, actually, because we're just such a sunny state. We don't have very many overcast days. But so the answer is going to change based on I have a video that's with the editor right now that's coming out that talks about some of this stuff in terms of the break-even point with heat pumps, because it's a question we've been asked a lot. And I won't go on a rant on heat pumps. I'll answer your question about solar. But I would say ballpark, it seems like it's a 10-year kind of break even. But what you have to look at is basically what's the cost of the equipment. I think there's a 30% tax credit you can take right now. So if you need that tax credit, that's something and I think you can carry forward that tax credit over several years. And then what you look at is like, what's your electric rate? If you're planning on getting EVs, which like eventually once we are on the wait list for like the Sprinters when they come out with an EV, because we determined that the Ford's it's just the range isn't enough, but Mercedes Sprinters, they have a 250-mile range. So that will work for our thing. So eventually I am looking to like, we might have, hubs where we have massive like solar fields. I don't know. And then it's again, it's not just because like it's an agenda I'm pushing. I want to save money. Like vans are super expensive to maintain. As you know, gas is super expensive. And so if I can fix my cost, that's how I kind of look at it. So with solar, like the way I tell people to look at it is like, what's your acquisition cost? Like, let's say it's 20 grand for solar to offset all your usage. And that's what you're using. And then basically you amortize that over 20 years. So you divide that by 20. So, okay, it's $1,000 a year to get your electricity. You have to look at, because I started really diving into it for this last video we did. Inflation on electricity over the past 25 years has been 3.4%, has been the actual inflation rate on energy prices. So that's natural gas and electricity. And so when you add that into the mix, that means that if your bill was $100, just using a round number in what would that be? 2000 or 1999. That means today your bill would be $230 to $250 ballpark. And so when you start to look at it like that, you really want to look at your acquisition costs, kind of account for inflation. And then my short answer is like, if you're going to be in that house for a while, it's definitely going to pay for itself, like at some point, guaranteed, just because you get, especially if you start incorporating like volatile gas prices, because that's what made us want to switch to EVs was when I looked at, even in that van, we're on a 12 to 14 cent kilowatt hour electric rate in Colorado. And so essentially we're paying about 80 cents a gallon for, gas in the equivalent range. And so for me, that was enough where I was like, okay, that's one of our biggest expenses every month. If I could pay 80 cents a gallon versus $3 to $4 or more, then, it's definitely worth it. So that's kind of, I don't know I hope that answers your question, but that's kind of the ballpark is like that. I would say that 10-year mark plus, but you really just have to crunch the numbers. And I would say if you're you said you're in Grand Junction, so I'm not as familiar with the power rates out there, but I know like in Phoenix, electric rates are higher. They're around like 22 cents a kilowatt hour. And then they go up from there, even on a commercial rate. So it's not cheap. It's easier to break even when your electricity is expensive. Is a short answer. So
I like I think one thing that folks don't consider, and I like that you pointed out the inflation side of things, right? I mean, I think we always do rough math and we don't even consider the future. I feel like that's why a lot of folks, as I've gotten older, I've started looking at, investments and things you start to care about when you start to get a little older that maybe I didn't when I was younger. And then you start looking at things like inflation, and a lot of investments just simply don't make sense because the math doesn't work out at the end of the day. So I like how you pointed that out. Arch wants to know, what's the minimum SEER rating on the IRA rebates? Do you know the answer on that?
I don't. I'm not sure what the I'd have to look that up. I mean, we could look that up, but
it's not just the SEER though, because like the Daikin Fit didn't make it. And then they came out with that enhanced version, and now it does make it. And it's not just SEER or SEER 2. They're looking at a couple things.
Yeah. So I believe, and I think some of it shifts by region. So I don't know. I think if you're in Arizona too, I know the cold climate heat pump was like a part of how they qualified it. So it had to maintain a COP of 1.75 or higher at 5 degrees Fahrenheit. That was one of the requirements. And then the other requirement was that it had to maintain 75% capacity or better at 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So it couldn't derate. Because if you looked at the chart on the DZ17, the original like Gen 1 Daikin Fit before they came out with the enhanced. Okay, cool. So this says, looks like 16. But the original, Daikin fit met the SEER requirement. But the reason that the heat pump didn't qualify was because it derated to like 60% capacity or 50% capacity once it got down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't remember what the COP was at, but I know the deration was the issue with that one. And so they went back to the drawing board and made it so it could keep up in cold climates. So
Ryan wants to know, are you going to do any more videos of you out in the field? Or have you found that the videos of you, what we call talking head videos, the ones that I do mostly, have they been performing better and that's why you're doing more of those? Or do you plan to do more things out in the field?
I'd love to do more stuff out in the field. The short answer is it's really interesting because I've learned like a lot about YouTube and the algorithm. I'd like to do both, is a short answer. It's all about, but it's interesting because I think the channel, what they tell you in the beginning is they tell you like niche down. And I think a lot of our viewers enjoy this type of content. And so it's easy to find like more other people, because if you throw out a video that's not related, it can kind of like throw a wrench in the algorithm where they're like, wait, we don't know who to serve this to because your regular watchers didn't watch it. But I love that suggestion. And the short answer is I'd love to put out more of that. And I think kind of our next plan in like the content production is I am looking to get a full-time videographer again that we can send out into the field. And then our editing team that we have they're all freelancers that I work with, that I outsource. So that's how I'm able to get content more consistently, is just because I can send them a bunch of content and we have, a bunch of people working on it versus just one guy. And so I think our next hire will probably be, I'd love to hire a videographer that is like interested in being in the field, and then we'll figure out what that format is and then put together, those maybe some install how-tos would be cool. I think people would like, if people are interested in the transparency of what we do and how we do it, I could do that. And then in addition, I would like to, short answer is I will probably do that and go back to doing more of that, but it's just, we're just kind of prioritizing right now, with the type of content we're putting out. So you like that? Heat pumps are cool, man.
Yeah, but I just love your thumbnails. Whoever does your thumbnails, is that you or is that somebody else?
No,
some of them are really
else.
clever.
That's a Photoshop guy he's awesome with the Photoshop. Yeah, he does wicked thumbnails. I like him too.
Yeah. Look at this guy. He's getting beat up by, he's getting arrested and he's got this horrible furnace. I mean, come on, it's illegal, man. Come on.
I know, it's ridiculous, man. The clickbait, but that one, it was when my vendor rep from Daikin actually sent us an email saying, because they were sending me a lot of follow-up emails, and then when I finally got the email like, oh, it happened, Colorado passed the bill, I called him. I was like, wait, what's going on with this bill? And it's a high efficiency mandate that's going in effect in 2025, so end of 2025, I think. And so I could watch the video, I guess, and find out. I can't remember if it was end of 2025 or starting 2025. But long story short, yeah, they're making us put in high efficiencies. And so there might be a workaround where they'll get a ultra low NOx 80% furnace. But it's just, sometimes we run into these like apartments that are, 50 years old. We can't vent high efficiency exhaust. And for someone that's, like they might kick on their furnace might kick on if you're like a mid-floor apartment, like your furnace barely kicks on because the people below you heat you and the people above you heat you and the two apartments on your side heat you. So it's very, like, you could almost get by without that. So they should, I would think it would make more sense if they had like some sort of, if they were really trying to push that, they should have pushed some sort of like heat pump exemption or something, just because it's easier to install a heat pump retroactively than it is to install a furnace. That's for sure. But,
yeah. I mean, I avoid politics as well, but I will say when they come out with some of these things, I think there's good intention behind a lot of the things that come out, but it sometimes ends up hurting the ones that, that need it the most. They need the most help here.
Mm-hmm.
And some folks don't, maybe they need a little, it's hard for them to spend the extra money on a high efficiency system, whether it's a furnace or a heat pump or whatever the situation is. So, going to, like you pointed out, there are simply just some homes that getting these, the extra flue vents installed,
Mhm.
it's going to be a challenge for sure. So
Yeah, that's always my take on it. Is it's just like you're not punishing the contractor, you're punishing the homeowner, like
yeah,
you're basically forcing them to put that in. And for someone that's again putting in a dual fuel heat pump, like we installed a VRV Life dual fuel system a few years back, and I'm friends with them. They were some of my first customers, and so we've become like close friends with them, and they're my customers, and they're actually coming to our baby shower. But long story short is like their system when they I think their furnace kicked on like 3 or 4 times in the past few years, and it's an 80%er. And so it's like, leave them alone. They got a heat pump, they have solar, they don't get a they don't get a bill anymore. Like they're completely energy independent. It's a grid tie solar system. And so it's like some of the stuff you're just making it expensive for the consumer at the end of the day. And
yeah.
yeah.
So what's a day look like for Howard Bynder?
Oh gosh. A day for Howard Bynder. I mean, they all vary, today it's funny, I have jury duty today and tomorrow I got selected for the jury. So I'm doing my civic duty today and tomorrow, but when I'm not doing that, which is most of the time, I'm kind of running around doing a lot of stuff. I'm not really in the field anymore. So it's a combination of right now, because we're scaling, it's we're doing a lot of interviewing and a lot of trying to find the right people and hiring people. And then when we hire them, that's like when all the work starts, because what I've learned in terms of business is it's all about like a good boss is there to set good expectations in terms of like, hey, this is how we do things. This is what we expect of you. And people actually really like that guidance, and they like that. It's not like you're bossing people around. It's the opposite. They're like, oh, now I know how to be successful here. And so I've been working a lot on systems. And so, but yeah, I mean, I could wake up one day and then might have a few, oh, nice, pulling up some jury stuff.
Dude,
Jury
have
duty.
you seen, not to change the subject, but have you seen
No,
this
change
TV
it.
show?
I have not seen it. Is that the one that's there's one that was out recently that was, I forget, but it was like a spoof. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Okay, I have seen a few episodes of that. Yeah, that's funny. And
It
that
is
dude who's
flipping
an
hilarious.
actor. Yeah, that dude who's an actor. And I think that one guy, I think he sold solar, right? Wasn't he like in solar sales in that one
I
episode?
don't know, but that's funny. Yeah, watch you
That is.
you're in season 2 and you don't even know it. You're gonna be
Maybe I
on.
am. That's so funny. Well, I'm not making very good content. I'll tell you that much, because I'm not very talkative. I'm just like on my phone in the breaks, so I'm not really talking to people. But so if I'm the star of the show, I'm a pretty boring one. But anyways, but yeah, I just I wake up. I normally check my phone, and then I have like a little morning routine that I do to kind of start my day, like positivity wise, and then I try to work on the most important thing, whatever is going to like move the needle, in my business. I come up with like video titles, like in my free time. Like I might be like, if I'm on the plane or something, I'll be thinking of video titles or trying to incorporate some of that stuff in. I do get, as much as I'm not like working in the business where I'm running calls and fixing all the issues, I do get sucked into a few things where it's like, hey, we need this login. Hey, I'm trying to do this thing in the books. Can you help me with this? And so there's a lot of that still. But it's for our size company, that's kind of expected. And I don't mind, I really don't mind it, honestly. I really enjoy the variety. I like, like last week when I was in Phoenix the first time 2 weeks ago, I ended up driving back because all the flights got canceled. And we had a van out there that was getting traded in anyways. And so I had to drive that van back. And so I drove the van back. I was like, well, now this is as good a time as any, because all the flights are canceled, because we got 3 feet of snow at my house. It was wild.
Wow.
And then the next time I had to go out there, I brought one of our other vans. That's a long story, but one of my guys got stuck, but I drove, his van back out to him because he had drove that other one out there, and then I flew back. And so there's a lot of movement, definitely, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I really like bouncing around like that. So
Yeah.
How about you? How have you been adapting to the change in terms of going from being, business owner grind and, the channel, everything you're doing to now being in a, position, like you said, where you have a boss and a little bit different role. How have you been transitioning with that?
It's different for sure, I don't know that my day to day has changed in that, I'm still, I was always in that mode of training others and, things like that. It's more of now I've got a whole new set of people to make happy, right? So before I was
Mm,
making folks happy, fixing air conditioners and trying to respond in a timely manner. Now I'm, you know, taking phone calls and trying to make sure contractors get the support and training that they need. And so it's a little different, but I don't know that it's, a super huge change. I think the biggest change for me will come in the summertime when, I had no life on the weekends for me, where I'm sure Arizona is probably going to be a
yeah.
little different, but I don't know how Colorado is during the summer, but here in Virginia on the coast, I didn't have a lot of weekends, there were
Mhm.
multiple 4th of Julys that I worked, so it's just, I'm looking forward to that, seeing my little girl grow up.
Right on.
So,
That's cool.
yeah.
No, I was just curious if there was like a change because I definitely, if I had to, I'm not gonna like I always tell people like the way I know like this is kind of what I'm cut out for is just like if you gave me two options, one was like here, take a business that's like millions of dollars in debt and you have to fix it and turn it around, or here's a job guaranteed making X amount, like whatever, super high paying job. But here's, the constraints of that job. I would take the business just because of like, even though it might eat my Saturday and Sunday for a while, the yeah, I just like the flexibility of that. It's just kind of like, how I operate. And and so I'm always, curious when people make that transition, just what it's like on the other side, if you have regrets or if you're enjoying it and it's what signed up for sort of thing.
I mean, I think that there's always unforeseens, right? So there are things that have come along that I was like, oh, well, that's different than I thought it would be. But um, all in all, it's been a great transition, and I do miss some of my employees. I do miss some of
Mm.
our customers. I don't know how you feel, but some of my customers were like genuinely, I became closer to them than I thought I would. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not gonna sit here and say they were family because I think that's disingenuous when people say that. But I just always go back to there was this one lady that passed away, and I remember bawling in the middle of a staff meeting in front of all of my employees
Yeah.
because I just loved the lady so much. And, it's just something that I don't think gets pointed out enough not just HVAC, but just service in general, how sometimes you develop connections and they're genuine, and so
Yeah.
there's going to be some of that missing, I'm sure,
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I mean, I think it's an emotional journey, like building a business. Like it's 80-90% mental and emotional, right? Because like when I remember like my first install customer, Shannon, like I remember when she chose me and I was the B and she found me on Craigslist and it was before I was even the B. I was just a generic, contractor with a business card. But I didn't take it lightly and I really appreciated that. And I mean, that was when I, had barely been in business and, that I overlooked some stuff on her install and we were back every summer for 2 years until I realized she had 4-inch ductwork, because her house was built in the 40s. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And so we added some ductwork and suddenly stopped getting callbacks. I just assumed, that was my mistake. But that's how I learned my airflow lessons as a business owner. But I do like, I feel a deep sense of it's true. I feel a deep sense of gratitude for my customers when they choose to do business with us. It's not just like we're making their home comfortable. I also feel like they're helping me build my dreams. I'm creating, we're living our mission statement through our employees. Like I called an old friend one time a while ago and told him kind of where I was at and we were touching base. And when he found out like I had, employees and stuff, cause he's an owner operator in another state. And he was like, man, good for you. He's like, bro, he's like, what you're doing, like help. And I don't really think about it that often. I'm definitely not patting myself on the back with this, But he was like, what you're doing with like helping other technicians and giving them a job. It's like when I first went into the trades and like these companies took a chance on me and like, they trained me, and I'm deeply grateful for that. Right. And you're giving people an opportunity and a way to feed themselves. And so there's a big mission to it. And so, yeah, there is, I think that's part of the thing I would miss the most if I like, when I transitioned away from it, I would, is that sense of, like mission and purpose, like I'm contributing to other people's lives. And there's a lot of headaches, like, it's not like, it's not like all roses, obviously, but it is something that definitely, that's what keeps me going, in those hard moments. That's what I always try to remember. But
yeah. And I'll say this too. I never thought I would go back to having a boss. Fortunately, this particular position, I'm not being micromanaged. I'm sure
that's
if I
awesome.
was, that would be different.
Yeah.
But I have not shared this, but I'll share it for the first time live here in front, in front of the world. Is that last year I took a few on the chin. I'd hired a couple bad employees, and I had dealt with a few difficult customers, and folks that we didn't do anything wrong, and they jumped to deciding they want to sue me, and just things like that, and
Mhm.
and it just so happened that this opportunity came along, and I really thought when I went to lunch with the guy that I was gonna let him down easy, and then it just, I think the stars just aligned, and so I tell everybody the real reason was because I want to see my daughter grow up, and I want to, but I mean, genuinely, I'm not sure I would have done anything different had that last year not been the way it was. I had taken a few on the chin, and it just wasn't fun anymore. Like, I remember my first install too. And
Yeah.
I just remember being so excited, and just, and I did the whole install, all full ductwork, full everything, all by myself, and it was a big deal to me. And so it just wasn't fun anymore. I wasn't having fun. And I think I have a higher calling with things like the YouTube channel. And I just said,
Mhm.
I'm just tired of taking it on the chin right now.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you, man. I've definitely, these past 2 years have been rough. We were kind of growing like year over year, and we hit an inflection point, which is really common around this like 12 to 15 employee mark size. And we realized there was like holes in the boat that we had to patch, which was like systems, onboarding. And I remember people said that to me early on. I went to a lot of like business events and training events, and like remember networking with people that had like big companies, right? Hundreds of employees or more. And when I was rubbing shoulders with them and asking them questions about, this, that, and the other, they made all my little problems seem so easy. And so we just kept growing. And then, but yeah, it was hard. And I definitely had to like dig deep and figure out, is this, what I want to do? And then, I just knew it was, I knew kind of the answer deep down. And so it's kind of like it's just like I said, it's just my nature. It's like if I jump from this business, I felt like it was going to be unfinished for me, and so that's ultimately why I've like muscled through. But it's like it can be very tiring, very taxing, and I just try to look at like the impact I'm making, because you do like make an impact, and I do appreciate that. But yeah, I know I've had customers like yeah. Yeah, it happens. All that stuff happens. And
Yeah.
so you just, I was talking to my operations coordinator one day, and I talked to my wife about this all the time. But I was, telling her that like, for me, when I look at these big, like, I don't know if you'd call them juggernauts of business, but these guys who have like massive companies, I think for me, the definition of success is when I look at them and I see them like level-headed and grounded when they're going through like a disaster, right? Like when their reputation's being destroyed, when something's happening, and they're just like, oh, okay, no worries, no big deal. And it's because for me, I felt, and I know you can relate this, any small business owner can relate to this, is it's like the emotional pulls of business. I think really like my goal is if I can get to the point, like as I grow to where I'm just like become more emotionally neutral and more just like grounded, that's like the real gift. Cause then it's like, I could lose it all and be like, all right, whatever. I'll start over, and not be stressed about it. So That's what my favorite quote from Tony Robbins. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, but he says, the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions, right? It's like you could be a billionaire, but if every day you wake up pissed off, angry, sad, or whatever, the quality of your life isn't billionaire. It's angry, pissed off, sad. And so I always try to keep that in mind, right? It's not about like anything else. So
I've quoted. Go ahead.
No, I said we're getting kind of deep here, going off on a side.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I don't know. I felt led to share that because
yeah,
I don't know. We were just on the topic or whatever, but I've quoted Tony Robbins multiple times myself, and folks, I've literally had people be like, "Who's Tony Robbins?" And I'm like, "Who are you right now?" I mean, are you living under a rock here? So anyway,
yeah, right on. That's cool.
I do want to ask. I think I sent you a list of questions before the show. Did you get that list of questions, possible questions?
I don't think so. I think I got the link.
No problem. One of those questions is, and I think we talked about it a second ago, but one of those questions is a goofy invention segment. And I'm just curious, do you have a goofy invention that you could share with us?
No, I don't have a goofy invention. I wish I did. I should have given it some more thought because I'm sure I have like a ton of them. No, it's funny. I have an actual invention that I'm actually like working on, and I haven't patented it yet. Yeah, and so I have to. I don't want to talk about it yet because it's still like I don't even have a provisional
with the world,
patent.
man. Share it with the world.
I will soon. So yeah, maybe when I launch it, I'll have to come, or at least get the patent. I'll come back and we could talk about it. But yeah, but I don't have a goofy invention. So
you're not gonna sew some sleeves on a blanket and call it the Snuggie and become a millionaire?
No, that's a brilliant idea. I wish I had thought of that.
Same.
The Snuggie, man.
The Snuggie, man. Somebody is living high on the hog just because they sewed some sleeves on a blanket. So that's I always go back to the Snuggie. So.
I love that. Yeah, I love that thing. It's such a great like infomercial. Every time you see it, you're like, man, that guy's a genius or gal.
Yeah.
I don't know who the Snuggie inventor was, but it's just like, you know what, honey, I don't, it's not quite a sweater day. It's not quite a blanket day. I got to figure something out. Let me just, anyways.
You have anything new that you're working on that you can share as far as the channel or anything like that?
I mean, I'm working on, I'm working on a lot. Like I said, I do have a video coming out, and I'm curious what people want to, what people want to hear. I mean, I told you mentioned it in the intro. I have a baby girl on the way. So, that's going to rock my world here. That's my first, and she's due, May 25th. So, there's a lot of emotions obviously there. I'm feeling kind of nervous. I don't know what it was like when, your first, because you have one kid or you have more than one.
I just have the one, and I don't. We've talked about maybe more, but definitely, she's the center of my world right now, and she changed everything. I think we were kind of talking about it before the show, and I had those moments as a young man that there were times when I was putting me first, and I was definitely making some immature decisions, and now it's like everything I do. In fact, that you want to talk about getting deep, I'm going to get real deep with you now. I only have one fear in life. Like I don't fear a lot of, like, I don't care about a lot of the things that people fear. The one thing that I fear the most is me dying tomorrow and not leaving enough for her. Right. Mm-hmm. And so everything I do, some people have hobbies, they play golf or they do all these things. And if I'm not working, then I'm working, and not in a workaholic kind of way. I'm just constantly trying to, do things like build this channel and work on, I sold my business because of her, everything I do is because of her now. And it changed me a lot in a good way, I think. So I'll be
Yeah.
excited to hear what you have to say come May 25th.
Right on. Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to see, how it all goes down. But yeah, I'm, combination of nervous, terrified, and super excited. But it's just, it's like the normal nerves of just like same thing. I have that like provider mentality, like, oh gosh, I gotta grind. I've got a kid coming. I really want, and it's like, and it's a lot of that stuff is just stuff we like project, or it's when you look at reality, our kids are gonna be fine. And but I do, that's definitely on my mind a lot. So
Yeah.
I can, so
Yep.
and I think it has shifted too to where I am, because I do like I work a lot. And I'm it's actually not as bad in terms of like some people, it's like you get home from the office at like 8 or 9 o'clock, which I might tonight. So that's a reality tonight. But it's really, it's about just like squeezing it in the nooks and crannies. I was telling my wife, I'm kind of looking forward to it, because I'll have like an alarm clock. I'll be like, I'm gonna be up early now because that kid's gonna start crying, and I'll have to get out of bed. I'll be like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. I'm like, all right, I guess it's okay. I'll take care of her, be present, and then do what I have to do and kind of start my day. And so I'm looking to I don't know if it's gonna be I've never heard anyone say kids are a productivity booster, but we'll I'll try it out. So
Yeah, I don't
anyway.
know. I don't know if they are. I can't say that necessarily she's a productivity booster, but she's definitely. I'm one of those. How everybody always thinks that their kid's the cutest kid around,
Mhm.
and I fall right in line with that, because I genuinely think my kid is the cutest around.
Right on.
I'm always cynical about other people's kids, where I'm like, there's no way they love their kids as much as I love mine, because they would never, you know, they would never do that if because I would never do that with mine, or what. Yeah, it's just funny.
Right
Um,
on. That's cool.
this is like the deepest show I've ever had, Howard. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
I know, right? We went on some other topics. Did you I saw a few more questions pop up in the chat. I don't know if you wanted to hit any of those. I'm happy to dive in.
Yeah, Mr. Parsons, that's what I'm going to call him or her, says, I read something about leveling a heat pump, and now I'm worried about mine tilting too much. I saw a YouTube video on how to do it myself. Am I asking for trouble? Well, I don't know about that, but it definitely should be level, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Howard?
Yeah, it should be level. I don't see a reason why it's not. I'm assuming it's just like a split system. Because if it's a package unit, I think most of them are designed to be level. You're not like tilting it because of the drain or anything. Is my understanding. But yeah, normally it's not that big of a deal to just level it out. You should be able to do that. You could even do it with some shims. I don't know how much it's tilting. I'd have to kind of see a visual.
Yeah.
But yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. But if it's like falling off a cliff, you might need more than a few shims. You might have to like jack it up and throw some dirt under there, or some gravel or something. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. Like, there's no way, in my opinion, there's no way to like attach a number to it, like how long it'll be okay. But
Mhm.
when things are, I mean, I'll just take, for example, the motor shaft and that armature. If it's designed to be completely vertical, and now it's just running like this, is it the end of the world? No, but it is going to give it a little more, wear and tear. And then, of course, when we look at things like oil return to the compressor, and
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying that if it's an inch off, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but we want these things to be level. They're designed to be level, and let's get them level.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just level it as much as you can.
Ryan says, have you ever had any of your crews do double installs in a day? And how did that go? Did it burn them out? Did it cause any turnover?
Um, so kind of, the motto in HVAC is kind of like get when the getting's good. And so two complete system installs, it seems like a lot. Um, I kind of, the way we run things is like, we let them do it at their own pace, and so like, if the guys tell me they can do it, then I let them kind of make that call, but I'll never push them. I mean, normally we push to get a complete system done in one day. Sometimes it, in Colorado, at least it can take 2. But there's different things that we're doing on an install. I know in Phoenix, it's a little bit different. It's definitely more urgent when it starts getting really, really hot. And, is kind of what I've heard is how people operate. So that might be a little bit different, where we're just trying to put in, 2 systems a day. But the big thing out there is we worry about safety in terms of like, there's every year it seems like, and it's like, I hope it doesn't happen. But you hear about a technician dying in Phoenix. I hate saying it, but it's just because they go in the attic and they like pass out in the heat of the day. Gosh. And it's really sad. And so, we're big on safety. It's like every shop has, ice coolers at the shop, and people carry, instead of water, they just carry like gallon, like things of like frozen ice cubes with them. So that way it like melts during the day. So we've never tried to do 2 in a day, but I think if we had a little bigger crews that we might be able to, because we normally put 2 guys on an install, and a complete system, depending on what we're doing, can take 8 hours, or it can take, 24 or, more, just because on a just a single split. And so, especially if we run into any surprises, that drags it out.
We've only ever done it once. We had an apartment complex, and I think there's a couple variables there. I think travel time, right? If you've got some travel time between the jobs, that plays a role. But I think you've got to have some really good guys to make it happen, and at least to make it happen and it still be a quality installation.
For sure.
Anybody can probably throw it in, but when we were doing that, I had and we only did it that one time. I'm like you, if the guys did knock out an install and they got off a little early that day or whatever, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, since you got that job done early, let's go. I mean, that we didn't do a whole lot of that, but I think you've got to have some good folks if you're going to, do that sort of stuff. Ryan says, I've seen those neck air conditioners on Amazon. I wonder if they work. Ryan's always brand? I think he's literally talking about something on your neck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it literally says neck air conditioner. Torres Coolify neck air conditioner. Wow, this is cool. This is worth checking out. So I will say this. One thing I have used is I had a phone case that, it was a phone holder that had a refrigeration circuit in it. So it had like a cooling pad on the back, and it wasn't just a fan on the back of my phone, but it was actually cold. That thing worked. Like in the heat of the day, phone on the dash in the sun, phone was not overheating, and getting the black screen or whatever. And so I'm sure this probably might work too. So that's interesting too. I'll have to check it out because that would be a lifesaver.
We used to get those we would get the towels, but they also make the buffs, or I think they're called buffs, but like where it wraps around. But the material would, when it would get wet, would have like a cooling effect. Like it would literally feel degrees less than the temperature, and it worked. I mean, I would be in the attics, it'd be 120 degrees in the attic, and you'd have this piece of fabric that felt kind of cool to the touch, and it was great to wrap around your head and stuff. So,
right on. Yeah.
Emery wants to know what state you're in, Howard.
We are in Denver, Colorado, and Phoenix, Arizona is where we're based, but I'm in Denver right now.
I like it. Do you do any like Zoom calls when you're doing trainings and stuff because you're running 2 locations?
Yes, we do Zoom a lot. And in Denver, we even do Zoom when I'm in town sometimes, just when we get a snowstorm sometimes, because rather than make the guys come to the office first and then dispatch, we don't want to kick the can down the road or kick the meeting down the road. So we'll have the meeting, but I'll be like, hey, let's just Zoom and then go rock and roll. Versus like if I have a guy that's 45 minutes from the office and his first call is by his house, like, hey, just leave from your house, go to the first call. Let's all Zoom really quick. And it's super efficient. And it still, gets, it's not as good as an in-person meeting. I still like in-person. But it gets the job done, and the guys definitely appreciate it. Like I said, we're trying to get work done, and that's the most important thing. So if we're busy, we'll do that. But were you using Zoom much, or you didn't really need to with your guys because they were all local and
we
your
would
area?
do so every now and then, like you said, if the guys were heading to a job, or if there was just some reason we just couldn't get everybody. I remember the pandemic played a role in all of this. If one of the guys was just coming back from being sick and we didn't want to put everybody in one room and just, we weren't a big company at most. The most I ever had was 11 employees. And I'm like, well, if 8 of them call out tomorrow,
Yeah,
we in trouble,
totally.
and
Yeah.
so we would do conference calls and things like that over the phone, not so much Zoom, but I could definitely see, especially running 2 locations, some maybe even not just training, but maybe a little bit of camaraderie that could develop if you're getting folks together like that, I don't know. So just something
Yeah.
that I was thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. And we are trying to send people like out of state too. Like one of my guys who's out there has been with me for a while, Danny. He's been in Phoenix now for the first month, and he's enjoyed it. Like, getting kind of the change of pace and getting to hang out there. And he's like, and definitely the weather's nicer. It's in the 70s and 80s. It's the best time to be in Phoenix right now. So it's super
Nice.
moderate. And versus I was like, yeah, I got 3 feet of snow on my deck. So yeah, you're definitely in the better of the 2 places. But yeah, it's cool.
Well, as always, if you are joining us on the show as we finish on a few topics, do me a favor. If you know of any good heating and air companies across the country, in fact, I'll open it to heating and air, plumbing, or electric companies. Drop their name and where they're located in the chat. There's so many bad ones out there. It's something we talk about from time to time. Let's show the good ones a little bit of love tonight. And you never know when someone in your area might see that company and actually send some business their way. In the meantime, Howard, if you would, let's land the plane with just kind of give your your plugs, if you will, plug anything you want to plug here, and make sure you subscribe to Howard's YouTube channel. But then also, maybe leave them with a bit of wisdom. If your own mother was going to buy a heat pump system tomorrow, what would you say to her?
Awesome. I love that. I'll give the plugs and then I'll give the wisdom. So you can, it sounds like some of you guys already watch my channel, the HVAC Dope Show, and that's much appreciated. So you can check us out at the HVAC Dope Show. If you're in Denver or Phoenix, soon we're going to be, our goal is to be in 3 markets in Texas by next year. And so we're going to be opening up Dallas, Houston, Austin. So I'll just say that now in case someone watches this video in a year, but we're coming.
Whoa. You just skimmed over that really say all that again? What is going on?
Our goal by the end of next year is to be in Dallas, Houston, and Austin. We want to be in Dallas Q4 of this year.
What?
So, yeah, that's the plan.
That is awesome, man.
Thanks. Yeah. So we're, and like I said, eventually we want to be everywhere, and we're just prioritizing places that are hot and sticky. And I also have family in Dallas too. So it'll be an excuse to go down there. But yeah, so if you're in one of those markets, you can look us up. We come out for free for all first time customers. We have a customer first approach, and that's kind of how we built our business. And then the heat pump wisdom. And I love the way you phrase it, because that's what I kind of tell people is like, if this was my mom's house, or if this was my grandma's house, or such and such, what would I put in? And what I would say, and I don't know if, do you want me to limit it to heat pumps or just HVAC in general?
No, whatever you want to drop that wisdom, man. It don't matter
Yeah.
to me.
So my wisdom would be, get this, like, do the fact finding to get the system that's best for your house, because most efficient might not be best. And I'm probably one of the fewest contractors, that will like try to not sell you like the highest end, top of the line system if it's not in your best interest. And so really ask yourself questions like, how long are you going to be in the home? What's going to be the use case for it? And try to be realistic about those answers. And that way, if there's no sense in spending more money than you need to, on a system that you're really not going to get the benefit of. And then if you're also, same thing, if you're in a smaller house, you might not get the benefit from going with a super high efficiency system. And if you've got money to blow and you want the quietest system, you can spend that money and get, a Daikin fit or something high end, so you have the maximum comfort. But if you're really just trying to get a moderate system or something that's middle of the road, like if my mom was happy with a single stage system and her bills were low, I would probably push her in a single stage system. And I say that because she lived out of state, like away from us. And so I wasn't there to like be able to fix, her equipment. And so in my mind, I'm always like, hey, just get something that's simple that anyone can work on. And she had a small, when she retired, she kind of downsized, had a smaller house, and was, she didn't have a need for like a super high efficiency HVAC system. And so that would be kind of my parting wisdom, is be realistic about what you need, and, and try and really balance it, try and balance your wants and your needs in a way that's, just most practical for you. So
I like it. I will close with this. Next week, I have one of the most controversial guests that I've ever had, and I'm going to
you're
leave
having
it
Alex
at
Jones
that.
on?
I'm sorry.
I said you're having Alex Jones on. I'm just kidding. You're good.
No, but almost as controversial.
Right
So I'll leave you with that. We'll be back next
Nice.
week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central. Find out what that time is in your area. And as always, thanks again, Howard. We really appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy man, and I do appreciate your valuable time just hanging out with us and dropping some of that wisdom. But maybe we'll do it again, after you're a daddy, and
Yeah.
we'll get to hear how that's going.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show. And I'm, honored to be here. I'm really, like I said, you're one of the few channels that puts out a lot of content geared towards homeowners, and you put out a lot. And so I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and I really appreciate, having me on the channel. So it's an honor. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks again. Again, guys, we'll be back next Tuesday with the most controversial guest I've ever had on our show. We'll be back 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, make it a great week, and we'll see you then. Take care.